Thank you. My name is Afia Hagen, and I'm a broadcaster and journalist. Now, I would love to stand here in front of you and say I always wanted to be a broadcaster and a journalist that had, aspirations of being Moira Stewart, Kate Adie. But I would be lying if I said that to you. In fact, when I was little, I wanted to be a firefighter. I was like, I definitely want to rescue cats from trees. Even though I don't like cats, I definitely don't trust cats either. And I thought, being a firefighter would appeal to the daredevil side of me. But then I realized just how flammable my hair was. And actually, it's not going to fit under the hat. So my dreams of being a firefighter were quickly extinguished. See what I did there? But when I was younger, I developed a real love of reading. I was a massive nerd. I was the girl in the library taking out 15 books at a time just because I could. And that is something that has stayed with me until today. And I would read magazines, I would read newspapers. On a Sunday, my dad would buy the Observer magazine. I used to read this column by John Diamond in which he detailed living with cancer. And he wrote this column right up until the week before he died. And those columns stayed with me. I can remember them until today. And he wrote with such heart and grace and power. And I decided that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to affect people in that way with words, so that words would stay with them. So in my life, I'm really used to being the first in the room. I was the first Black girl to go to my high school. I was the only Black girl for the whole time that I was there. And for a long time, I was the only Black Scottish woman that I knew, apart from my mum. So I grew up in Glasgow. If you couldn't quite place my accent, you can now. I grew up with my mum and my dad. My dad was a dentist, my mum was a nurse. And I moved to London when I was 17 to study journalism at university. And that's where I really learned about communicating in a way with heart and grace and power that can really affect and impact people. Now, post-university, like lots of graduates, I did a whole lot of jobs. One of the first ones was working on T4 and Pop World. Only people of a certain age will remember those shows. I worked on 60 Minute Makeover for ITV. And yes, we do make over those houses in 60 minutes. And yes, they are always disgusting. Like actually terrible. Owners crying. That's the bit you don't see. ITV sued a lot. Good times. And then I worked for music powerhouse Chris Blackwell, who was one of the people that helped bring Bob Marley to prominence. Now, that was a job. Nobody cried. Some people cried, but not because we'd wrecked their houses. And it was a wonderful job, and I loved it. But I really decided after a few years there that I wanted to get back into writing, into communicating with people effectively. So I decided this is a good time to submit my CV to lots of great magazines. So, Vogue, Marie Claire, Heat, Closer, Glamour, all these magazines, and your Sunday supplements as well. I thought, you guys need me. You need me. So I submitted my CV absolutely everywhere. And I had a decent degree that my mum and dad paid for. I had great references. I had a pretty decent portfolio as well. But what I didn't have was a foot in the door. I kind of felt like every single door was closed to me. I also made the mistake of having a very, very Ghanaian sounding name, which meant that when I sent off my CV under my very Ghanaian sounding name, I got tumbleweeds. I didn't even get tumbleweeds back, just silence. But when I resubmitted my same CV under my alias, kind of like Superman, but without the glasses and the cape. My alias was Amanda Wilson. I got 3 interviews back. So sending off my CV under my actual name, at the time it was Afia Champong, that's before I got married, got me nothing. My alias, Amanda Wilson, got a foot in the door. My name, which was picked for me by my mum and dad, which means a girl that was born on Friday, with real significance to it, got me nothing. But the name that I made up, that I plucked out of the clear blue sky, deemed me good enough for a Vogue, for a Marie Claire, for a Glamour. I don't actually, any of these recruiters got past my name. It was too difficult to say, so they just didn't read my CV. They tossed it in the bin. But Amanda Wilson, she had what they wanted. I didn't go for that interview, by the way, because I didn't want them to be disappointed when they expected Amanda Wilson and got me. It was as disheartening as it was depressing. And it was probably the first time in my whole life that I felt too black for my industry, even though I knew I was more than good enough for any of those jobs. But finally, one magazine got past my very hard to pronounce and not very British sounding name, and I landed a job at Black Hair magazine. Now, this was a hair and beauty magazine aimed at women of colour, aimed at black women. I was like, yes, this is amazing. Growing up in Glasgow, we didn't have anything like that. And I really loved the idea of like 14-year-old Afia going into a newsagent in Glasgow with her Afro puffs, picking up a Black Hair magazine, you know, looking at styles and looking at makeup for her, written by women that looked like her. But it wasn't. So when I started at Black Hair magazine, remember it's a hair and beauty magazine aimed at black women, I was the first black woman to ever work there. A true story. It had been going for 8 years before I started, and I was the first black member of editorial staff. Now, when I arrived in the office for the interview, I didn't know this. I was greeted by the white female editor, the white female publisher, and the white female group editor. And I thought, that's okay. I was walking through the office. I was looking for my new black bestie. Couldn't find her, but I was like, it's okay. She's out to lunch. She's on a shoot. She's interviewing, you know, someone fabulous for the cover. Angela Bassett, maybe. And then they'll come through the office, see me, and we'll form a black girl trio. Didn't happen. So upon getting the job, at this point, I still didn't know there was no black female members of staff. So we got the job. I got there in the first day. And I was introduced to Jane, who was wonderful, by the way, a great, great editor and a great person to learn from. And she was white, and our features editor was white, and the beauty editor was white, and then there was me. And it didn't make any sense how a magazine for black women didn't have a single black woman on its staff. Surely our voice was invaluable. Surely it was needed, but it wasn't there. They never recruited anyone. And I knew that there was writers out there who could have been recruited, but just weren't in the whole time I was there. Didn't make any sense. But I sucked it up. I got on with it. I absolutely loved that job. And within a year, I was the editor. Of course I was. Of course I was. I put all of my heart and grace and power into that job. And I was so proud to say that I was the first ever black female editor of Black Hair magazine. Thank you. So after Black Hair magazine, I went to Pride magazine. It was a lifestyle magazine for black women. Actually had black women working there. Shocking. And then I took a year off to to have my daughter, Naima, who is now 12. And when I was ready to come back to work, I had a bit of a superwoman complex, as my mother called it, and decided that I needed an extra challenge. New baby, tick that off the list. Magazine job, tick that off the list. I need something else. So I decided this is the perfect time when you have a small child at home. Add some extra stress, it doesn't matter at this point. I decided to take up a job in television. So this was in 2015. And I thought to myself, yeah, this is a really good idea. I'm going to work for a channel. They've asked me to come and do some reviewing of the newspapers. And it was literally the graveyard shift. It was 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. reviewing the day's newspapers. And I was like, yes, this is a good way to get my foot in the door. And here came an incident of racism that I never expected. Now, being a dark-skinned woman on British TV is really, really tough because colorism, sexism, and racism are rife until today. So I joined this channel with the hopes that someone in programming would deem me, fabulous enough for daytime TV, but you have to start at the bottom. That's fine. So I was talking with another black female TV producer, and I told her this. I was like, I'm going to do these late night shifts until someone sees how amazing I am, shoves me on at 10 a.m., where I belong. And after I've had a good night's sleep, by the way. And she said to me, you are never going to be on daytime TV. You're just too dark. And I looked at her like, she's got to be mad to have just said that to me. I said, did you really just say that? And she had. She dropped it casually, as if it made perfect sense, as if it was a completely normal thing to say, and that I should be happy with these nighttime slots because that's where I belong. Now, as a black woman, I make it my mission to try and open doors and help other black women along the way. So I was shocked that she could say this to me. I assumed allyship. I assumed support. I assumed sisterhood from this woman, but actually what I got was bitterness. And that was because of something she went through. And I said to her, that might have been your story, but it's not going to be mine. I guess in one way, she was probably trying to let me down gently. She was setting me up for what she thought was inevitable, that I would face colorism, racism, and sexism. And she was right. She was absolutely right. She continues to be right. But she was also very, very wrong. Was it difficult to get that break? Yes, it was. Do I still face racism, sexism, and colorism today? Yes, I do. But 9 years on from that conversation, I'm still here and still trying to put my heart and grace and power into everything that I do. So like I said, over those 9 years, I've been quietly, not so quietly, plugging away and breaking as many glass ceilings as possible. I am the first, and as of this moment, I think, unless someone's hired someone in the past 5 seconds, still the only black female royal correspondent in the global north. Thank you. Again, curtsy, thank you. Now, working on the royal beat is a tough one. Relentless, I think, is the word that I would use, especially over the past few years. The addition of a woman of colour to the royal family in the guise of Meghan Markle has definitely upped the ante. And the marriage of the Sussexes coincided with an uptick in my career. That pissed off a lot of people. One particular person sent me a direct message on social media and basically asked me who I thought I was talking about the royal family because I was not British anyway. Well, I mean, technically I'm Scottish, but we all know Scotland's Andy Murray, We all know what his point was. Black, in his eyes, doesn't equal British. So who do I think I am talking about the royal family, a great British institution? And that has been a very popular opinion of me that people just love to tell me, even though I didn't ask them to. Because I speak out about the misogynoir that Meghan Markle faces, as well as report on the royal family generally, whatever shenanigans they've been up to this week, it makes me an easy target. I'm black, I'm dark-skinned, I have big hair and a big mouth, and a lot of people don't like that. I've been labelled aggressive and shouty, when in fact, I'm anything but. But it's much easier for people to label me as an angry black woman, rather than try and hear or understand what it is I'm saying. But I keep going, carry on, heart and grace and power in everything I do. I think the reality is that I am too black for you. I'm probably not British enough for you, Scotland's Andy Murray. But here's the next reality. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to lighten my skin, I'm not going to soften my accent, and I'm not going to change my opinions to make anybody else feel more comfortable. It's not my job. In fact, it's up to you guys to change your way of thinking. The next time a CV passes your desk that has a hard-to-pronounce name, or someone introduces themselves to you with a different sounding name, what are you going to think? Are you going to think, can't be British? Challenge the reasons why seeing someone on screen that looks like me jars you. Why it is that a black, dark-skinned woman, big hair, big mouth, and an opinion that might be different to yours is a threat. So therefore, you demean someone to the stereotype of the angry black woman that just lumps all black women together as aggressive or hostile, ignoring their multifaceted nature. This is really damaging for black women everywhere and prevents them being seen in the way that they should and perpetuates those harmful misconceptions about black women in society. Just change your way of thinking about people. It sounds hard, but actually it's really not. It's just as easy as, me changing my hair. My success is my success because I am enough despite being deemed too dark for the daytime. Thank you very much.